Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. We're here at the Train for That podcast, and we have a super special guest. I mean, they're all special, but this is Tori Boggs, the Tori Boggs, the international woman of mystery. And here's the deal. I thought I knew Tori Boggs. I put her in the Google machine and I looked up some stuff and I was like, okay, I get Tori Boggs. I started talking to her and she's literally one of the most interesting people in the world. And we're gonna dive into just kind of the background on how she got to where she is. But in addition to that, just all of these other things about her, because we like to talk about training. We like to talk about what you do, but we also kind of like to get to know who you are. And I think a lot of the times when people chat to someone of this level, they're talking specifically about what they do, which is jumping rope. And you seem to be so much more than that. And so let's just first start off with who you are and what you're known for. In your own mind, if I were to say who you are and what you're known for, tell me.
Oh, geez. I guess, I'm known for using my jump rope.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, it is very simple. She's just known for using her jump rope.
I'm here because of the jump rope. So ultimately.
Well, if you say it like that, then I'm here for fitnessing fast. If we go that way, but we're here for a lot more than that. I think so. You have world records in jump rope. You got 32 world championships, 31 world championships, 32 national championships, multiple world records, or just one.
Right now I have one.
Right now she has one. You've held a different one at a different time.
Yeah.
You've done jump rope since you were 5.
Yeah.
And now you're 29.
Yeah.
So it's been a long, long time. So jump rope is not just you've made a name for yourself jumping rope and being on social media. And I just literally watched this amazing piece that Wired did on you. Go check it out, guys. Go on YouTube. And I think, what was the title of it? It was how this woman
became good at jumping rope, maybe, or jump roping, or
made her life jumping rope, or something like that.
Like this.
It's fantastic if you want to know some specifics about it. But so the most crazy one that you have recently set is the triple under record, right?
Yeah.
And how many triple unders was that?
I got 493 consecutive triple unders.
493 consecutive triple unders. How much time does it take to do 493 triple unders?
Yeah, it can take between 5 to 6 minutes, usually.
I can't do anything for 5 to 6 minutes straight, let alone the effort it takes to do a triple under.
That takes effort. Honestly, the hardest part is counting.
Right. Well, did you have to count as you did it, or do you have a counter?
I do try to.
Okay.
But there's a certain point, maybe past the 300 mark, when you're kind of just barely hanging on.
Yeah.
And it's a huge mental game too, I'm sure, as you've experienced in your sports career. But yeah, so you just start to lose kind of control. You have to kind of keep your composure, bring it together, take it a little bit at a time, bite-sized pieces to get to the next chunk of 10. And at that point, that's when it gets fuzzy. Also, I start to lose a little bit of eyesight, things start to kind of water.
You were saying that in the video, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, so there's kind of that, there's definitely that hard time period till the end. It's kind of like that, but yeah, you can't think about that, right?
No, you just gotta go. But
yeah, you just gotta truck through it.
So what's the training look like leading up to making a max attempt on triple unders? Because I can't imagine you're just keep attempting max sets of triple unders. So what does that buildup look like for you?
You have to be really careful,
right?
Because it can be really dangerous to overtrain that event. And I've done it plenty of times throughout the years. That can consist of, stress fractures or torn muscles, or just a lot of times it's lower limb related, of course, with jump rope. Right. So you do have to be really careful with how you're training for jump rope and looking at not always the repetitive motion of doing the triple unders. But then again, ultimately, the nature of that skill is that you have to have your timing down. Right. Especially as you do start to get fatigued and being able to make those adjustments. And you can really only get there when you've practiced that. Right? You practice getting to that fatigue mark. So you do have to do it. So there's that mix of not overdoing it to injury, which I've done.
Yeah.
But the other crazy thing about triple unders are, in the sport of jump rope, it's the only event where you're not timed or anything. It's just however many you can do. Right. And you have 2 attempts when you go on the floor, but the first attempt can't be over 15. So if you go on the floor and you do 5, you can do a second attempt. But as soon as you cross the 15 mark, you can't you have no longer attempt.
I feel like it should be like 100. I mean, like
Well,
15 seems like you just barely make like scratching the surface.
It's kind of like a plane going to
Right.
take off, right?
Right.
So that initial part is a little tricky because
Okay.
you're getting into a rhythm. I don't think 15 is enough personally because I think it takes a little longer to hit that rhythm, that stride.
Okay.
But that's kind of why that rule is in place. And I have gone to competition after 2 years of training and messed up at 18. Yeah, so it happens. For sure. And that's really crazy part of that event. Is any other event that's timed, you can try to recover. Granted, at the world level, if you have a mistake, you're not even on the leaderboard. So you just can't mess up. But
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the types of events, and this is kind of sounds like you're in that space. Like I've always been blown away by people who train for the Olympics and they get like this one shot to just perform as perfectly as possible. And like because I mean, I can't. Every sport I've played, it's not one shot. It's like a full game, or it's like a weekend of events, or it's like because I played volleyball and I've done CrossFit and I've like done things in those spaces. So you get like a full weekend of events. Like you screw up, like you just make it up somewhere else, you know.
Yeah.
But like these events where like you literally train for 2 years and you come out and you have this one attempt, like. What is the thought process going into that? Like when you're like stepping on the stage and you're like, okay, here we go, like. What are you thinking about as that goes in?
You definitely can't think about that,
right.
like screwing up because you're already kind of lost the ball game. Yeah, for sure that's a tricky part of jump rope, but I will say facing the stress of being at a world competition after knowing all of that training and then going into like the rest of my life, it's like a piece of cake, right?
Right. So the stress of the rest of your life is much
Yeah, I mean, I feel like,
bear.
I can handle this. I can handle this moment of feeling that amount of pressure and that amount of stress. And then there's a part of me that really loves it. Like I thrive and I seek that. I seek that ability to train, push myself as hard as I can, and then have that moment to perform, essentially, to produce and do that. And that's another thing about jump rope is that, you know, you're not against really a competitor. Like you're not in a match where you're against an opponent.
Yeah.
So I always think of it like actually your opponent is yourself.
Right.
So you're just there to try to PR, to better your score from the last time, to put yourself in a challenging situation and let's see how it comes out. And every competition can offer something different. Like we've had world tournaments where we're in a different country, the food's different, the conditions are different, and these are all factors that can play into how you're gonna perform for that 5 to 6 minutes on the floor for triple unders, right? So all of these different things go into play, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you sound like you thrive on it. And I mean, I've got some more things I want to ask you about on that. But just so I'm clear, because I didn't even know, like I know nothing about the world of jump rope. I use it as a tool for conditioning and building neurological capacity in like totally a basic sense. Like what are all the events on a national stage? Like what are, because it sounds like there's like world record attempt events, there's national events, and then there's stuff that's going to be in the Olympics or is in the Olympics already.
It's not yet in the Olympics. We've been working really hard. I am very lucky to be in the group that's helping that happen. So we've done loads of conferences and talks with the Olympic Committee. We're actually an observational sport, which is really a great opportunity. That means that they're literally observing us.
Right.
So they're helping us. We have anti-doping protocols. We do all of the stuff with WADA. So we're very close.
Right.
But jump rope is such a diverse sport. There's so many different things that you can do. So we have the event like triples where you're going to exhaustion, not timed. But we also have the timed events where you're just going as fast as you can. You can do solo. You can do 2 people,
Wait, what
3
are
people.
What are the timed events?
So we do like 30-second speed is kind of our sprint, kind of like the 200-meter dash. That's
so
what we have.
30-second sprint of what?
Just as fast as you can jump. You're alternating feet. So you're kind of doing this jog step motion.
If you guys haven't seen that,
pretty crazy.
Look it up. It looks...
Yeah. At a typical pace of just kind of casual double unders, I've calculated the speed of my jump rope is going roughly 80 miles per hour. And that's just, you're looking at the very end of that rope going around your body. And that's just kind of a normal pace. So,
I mean, I heard him break it down in that video that you were doing 5 point something jumps per second.
Yeah.
5 point something revolutions per second.
Yeah.
For 3 straight minutes.
Yeah.
When you said that.
That's the other endurance event. Yeah.
That's the endurance event.
So we have 30-second speeds. That's a speed event, fast, like the 2 meter, 200 meter. And then, the endurance would be like the mile, the 2 mile type thing in our sport.
And how long is endurance?
That's the 3 minutes.
It's 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I've set world records on that. I was the first woman who broke the 900 barrier. That was back when I was, there's a lot of technology that's happened in the sport as far as handle development and training's gone. So that's pretty cool. That was my first event that I specialized in.
Yeah.
Because as a younger jumper, you're going up against older women who are a lot stronger than you. So in subjective events, it's quite difficult to win.
Right.
But when it comes to these objective events, it's just, if you're good, you're going to win it. And
Yeah.
I really enjoy this part of jump rope is that you'll have your age division, national championships, and international championships.
Yeah.
So you can win first place 12 to 14 age group.
Yeah.
But if you're the best, usually top 12 in the tournament, you qualify for the last day. And that's grand national or grand world championships. And you're just competing against anybody of any age.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. It's the best of the best.
Oh,
and
wow.
this is what I have my titles in, and those are kind of the titles that you want to go for.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a super cool. You'll have 7-year-olds against 27-year-olds, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just who the heck is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's the sprint, there's the power, which was the
Yeah.
whatever the triple under event.
Right.
There's the endurance, which is the 3-minute singles. What else is there?
So we also have freestyle events where you're combining skills.
Okay.
And those are usually 1:15 long. You're doing the most difficult skills that you can do with the least amount of mistakes as possible with the best presentation. So
Okay.
kind of all those factors.
So that's kind of gymnastics-y.
It can be gymnastics-y. You don't have to do gymnastics.
Oh no,
in
I
the
mean
sport.
in its scoring.
Oh,
it's
yes, sorry,
it's
yeah.
basing it off of like
Yeah, like figure skating, gymnastics.
Gymnastics,
yeah.
that kind of.
We don't quite have the number of regulations that those sports have.
Okay.
Like in those sports, you'll have to usually submit a pre-written routine, and the judges are it's already judged, and
Yeah.
they're just kind of checking off if you've done that and how well you did that. Jump rope is really creative, and that actually makes it really difficult to judge, is because a trick you're doing in 1:15, 80 skills. That's so hard to catch.
Yeah.
So the judges have to be really trained on what the skills are, to the point where a lot of times it's going like a general audience
Yeah.
has no idea what I just did.
Yeah.
Basically, and that's a really technical part of the sport.
I bet social media has made that awesome for you though, because like when you can you slow something down or pop it out
Yeah.
there in like little snippets, like people can eat that up and they can start to break down these more complex things. Then when they get to a competition, they're like, that's all those things I saw, but like together in one go.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's definitely true. I think that's been a really nice opportunity for education of the sport. What you will see start to happen though is you discover this because you'll post something that just people still can't comprehend, and then something so much easier
Right.
is out there, and then they're like, "This is the best jumper in the world," and we're like, "I just taught that to my 5-year-old teammate like the other day." That
Yeah.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
So that's just tells us that we still have some education to get out there, and
Right.
jump rope's still growing.
Right. Well, I mean, okay. You had a part in that Wired video that I think kind of encapsulates something that makes you a little bit unique. And you kind of said it earlier of just like loving the ability to go out there and just, it's such a difficult thing and all that stress that you go through in this, you kind of enjoy like the process of that whole experience. But you in that video had a part where you set yourself on fire. You were trying a new trick and you set
go.
yourself on fire and got 2nd-degree burns on your leg. And your mentality coming out of that was that happened and you're immediately oiling up your rope the next day so that you can come out and try it again, because you seemed like whatever you like challenges you, you want to then pursue again more aggressively. Like a lot of people shake that off and they're like, you know what, maybe not the fire routine right now. And yours seems to be the opposite side of it, where it's like, let's see if I can dig into this fire routine, even though I just gave myself 2nd-degree burns. Like that's a literal pain thing that you were like, you know what, I think I can. Like have you just always had that?
I mean, I
or
don't
is-
want to encourage people. Like,
No, I'm not saying set
No,
yourself
no, I
on
got
fire,
you.
but it's like I'm gonna. This also goes to the fact that like you play music. How many different instruments?
I'd say I'm like decent at 2, but I love to collect instruments. So I end up kind of playing a bunch of different
And
ones.
what are those 2 instruments?
Banjo and piano.
Banjo and piano, pretty much the same instrument. Just one's a piano and one's a banjo. And then what are the other instruments that you've collected? and play?
Ukulele. I tried for a while when I started traveling.
Yeah.
My goal was to get an instrument from each country. That is a very daunting,
Ambitious goal.
and,
Yeah. Hard to ship a piano
Did
home.
not work
Yes.
super well. I did get a ukulele from Hawaii.
Okay.
African bongos, a didgeridoo from Australia, and that coming from Australia, that was pretty wild. Those were kind of the big ones. African xylophone.
Can you play
pretty
these?
Cool. Yeah, I mean,
Well, I mean, you say that like, yeah, I mean, but like most people can't pick up an instrument and play it. And those are like pretty varied instruments when you're talking about a didgeridoo.
Yeah.
Moving into a xylophone. I guess that's kind of piano-ish.
Well, I did the piano theory growing up.
Ah.
And I even did competitions. I did math competitions. I was kind of a nerd like this. So doing the music theory definitely helps you try to
Apply
translate
yourself to
that
other
across
music.
instruments.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you're saying that about music. Oh, I've got this background in music, but you also have gone and taken the MCAT.
Yeah.
And you...
Worst exam ever. No.
Worst exam ever, but how did you do?
I mean,
Did you pass the MCAT?
I can always find room for improvement.
But you passed the MCAT?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, doesn't really go like pass or fail, but I have always had the goal of going to med school.
Yeah.
So kind of everything I was doing in school was leading up to going there. Even from elementary school, like that was kind of in my mind. I either wanted to do vet or med school. And then going to high school, the same. Going into college, I did the prereqs for that. And that was really like ultimately what I thought I was going to do. My brother, he's 6 years older than me. And we kind of were going to go to med school together.
Oh.
Yeah, so he moved up to Columbus. He moved in with me. That was the plan.
And then what happened?
And then I got an offer from Cirque du Soleil.
So then she goes to Cirque du Soleil. So like that's the thing is like that's what I'm like. So my original question was like your mentality seems to be something's difficult and it's hard and there's a lot to pursue here, but you just do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not thinking too much about how difficult it is or if it's going to be a challenge or I'm about to put myself through this. I'm more of thinking, first of all, if I want to do it enough, I'm going to find a way to do it. Like when it came to...
So maybe that's it. Because I mean, I think a lot of people want to do stuff, but don't do it. Like there's plenty of people out there who have the desire to like pursue something and be like, oh, I'd really like to do this, but there's no next step. It sounds like everything that you've wanted to pursue, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you just like dug in. Like, do you find that when you go to start something that you just are good at it? Or is it like...
Oh, no. Especially, I mean, with jump rope, it took me forever just to learn to do a basic jump. And I was lucky. I had a great experience with jump rope when I did start, which of course is why I fell in love with it. But that's why whenever I get to teach kids, I try so hard to give them a really great first experience because even if they don't choose to go into jump rope, you know, as crazy as I did, they can still get something so important out of it because jump rope is really such a full body thing. It's even a mental activity. It's a social activity. You get some incredible, I am so grateful for all of these opportunities. So if I can like just give this child a great first experience with just using something that's so inexpensive and portable, you just never know how that's going to impact their life.
Right.
And then back to your point of like how to approach something, I think sometimes I don't think so macro scale on a thing. Like, oh my gosh, if I do this, it's going to take me this much effort, this much time. I'm not tackling it in that way. I'm looking a little more closely at it. Like with getting burnt. Okay, why did I get burnt?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought about, well, I made a mistake. It was 100% my fault. I knew at the moment it happened. So I'm not going to make that mistake again next time I go into it. So I'm not thinking necessarily about, oh my God, I could get burned again. It could be worse. I'm thinking, how do I just do better when I approach it again?
So,
and then, yeah.
So you would say that the mentality of just how do I do better and think smaller picture, once you say, okay, I want to do something, and then you stick to doing that, even if it's difficult, you go, okay, I reached a point where it's really difficult. In your case, I just burnt myself.
Let's solve this problem.
Let's solve this problem. Okay, so because I'm trying to, how do you extrapolate that out as like a piece of advice for somebody who wants to do stuff but doesn't take that next step, or wants to do stuff, takes that next step, it's really difficult, and then is like, well, now what?
Right.
Like when you face something that's difficult, what happens? So like, let's take the burning situation out of it. Like you first want to start playing piano, and it's really difficult for you or whatever. I guess maybe you took theory first. It
was kind of both
kind
together.
of both. And I'm sure you didn't just like pick it up and it was like felt really good.
I actually didn't enjoy it to begin. I liked the theory. I did not like playing or practicing the piano.
So what happened? So you didn't like the theory, then what?
So I will say first of all, amazing parents. My mom and dad are awesome. I have an amazing big brother. They always were like, whatever you're gonna do with your time, like do it to the best of your ability to grow from it. So if you're about to sit down at the piano for even 20 minutes, like why would you waste that time when you can really learn something from doing that. And if you don't want to do it, don't get in front of the piano. Do something else with that time that you want to do. So I think that obviously took a while as a kid to start having that sink in. But once it did, everything I was doing, I approached it that way. Okay, I'm about to do my math homework. So I'm gonna try to get it done as efficient as possible so I get the most out of it that I possibly can. Okay, I wanna play soccer, but I also want to be on the cross country team, and then I wanna jump rope at the same, how can I best manage my time and effort so that I'm able to do all of these things that I wanna do?
Yeah.
And that was just me. I wanted to do all of those things.
Right.
And that's not always the same for other people, and that's fine. But I will say that it is quite important when it comes to what you're doing with your time is how you're going to grow yourself from, how is this going to help you, and how is this also going to help you help other people?
Right.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a pretty strong driving force in your life. The things that you're going to do all tend to center around helping other people in the long run. I mean, the jump rope is, I guess, relatively selfish in the sense that it's your sport that you pursue, but at the same time, you use it to go teach other people. And it's you use the platform you've had to inspire other people and do these other things. And then you talk to me about, types of medicine you'd like to be on. And you're I'd really just like to work on, do some plastic surgery on cleft palates. And I'm okay, that's awesome. But it seems to be part of your own psyche. Is that how you've been your whole life? Or is that something that's,
well, I think ultimately it's still kind of selfish, right? Why do I want to help those people? Because it makes me feel good. I feel like I can use a talent to help them. So it's still in a way kind of selfish.
Yeah. I have felt the same way as a coach, where the reason I like making people good at moving is because I feel really good when they get it.
Yeah.
That's been the driving force for me. And I've said those same things. It seems like a selfish pursuit, but it's in the pursuit of somebody else's well-being.
Right.
But so is that how you view it? Do you view it as a selfish pursuit, when you're helping other people, or is it just what makes you happy?
I don't think I'm thinking that much about it, to be honest.
That's crazy. You're so accomplished in everything that you've done, and you haven't put tremendous. I mean, you've definitely put thought into it, but it's you haven't examined it. You've never. What happens when you hit a road bump? I'm curious just for myself.
I've definitely hit that. I went through a time where I was injured quite badly. It was when I was in high school. I couldn't jump rope for basically a year. I had to quit sports. I had to get better, basically. Okay. And that was a really depressing time in my life. I was really unhappy.
Yeah.
And coming out of that, it definitely took a while to find, you're in that time of your life where you're going to college. What do you want to do? You have so many things coming at you. But now I really do try hard to live as happy as possible.
Yeah.
Or find happiness. And a lot of that is just perception.
Yeah.
Something bad happens to you. I don't actually look at it as a bad thing. How can you take that thing and learn from it? How can you take something negative or bad and turn it into a positive? Because everything can really be viewed as that way. Right. Even in the hardest of times, how is this going to help you get better, get stronger? And ultimately, I do try really hard to live each day like this, and I feel so much happier from it.
Yeah. I mean, you carry a lot of happiness with you. I mean, from the second I've seen you here, you literally skipped, no joke, you skipped instead of walked around this room. And I was does she just skip everywhere? Is that how it kind of works? I'm a pretty happy guy, and I bring a lot of energy, but it was a different kind of peace that you have, you're just kind of content with what you're doing, but at the same time, you seem to carry quite a bit of happiness. The time that you were injured and you were coming through it and you were saying it was a depressing time, was that the time that you sat and had the thoughts around okay, why not let this be something that I grow from? In that moment when it was really hard, I'm sure, because we all go through those times.
Yeah.
What brought you out of it? Was just the healing process, or did it give you some time to reflect, or?
Yeah, I think definitely reflection. I did at that time put myself more into my schoolwork. So I think ultimately that ended up better because I got a full scholarship from going out of high school, going into college, which that was a goal of mine. But had I been jumping rope and doing all these other sports, had life gone differently, it could have turned out quite differently.
Right.
I don't quite think I was thinking that deeply about how can I turn this around. I think I was just trying to kind of get better and take it day by day. And even fast forwarding into other injuries, I've torn my muscles, I've broken bones, I you're always dealing with stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it's not those
Yeah.
types of physical injuries, there's
Yeah.
other things that you're dealing with. Hopefully they don't last long. Hopefully you can kind of see the bright side and turn that around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think ultimately it's just that perception is really important for people, not to
Yeah.
get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like you move on pretty well and you shift your focus quickly to something that's like,
Well, I definitely am a hyper person in that I always want to be doing something. It's really hard for me to sit still.
yeah.
So I do feel like from that standpoint is that I feel like I'm wasting my time if I'm just chilling here.
Totally.
Like I need to be doing something to do. So yeah, and from that standpoint, I am always trying to like do something,
Yeah.
continuing going and
Do you
going forward.
Do you ever find it, I mean, with the outlook that you have and the type of commitment that you have to the things that you do, and they're at such a high level, do you ever find it hard to relate to people, like other people who don't? Like you meet someone and you're just like trying to hang out with them and you're like, they just don't have that same ambition or that same drive or like you just don't understand. I mean, I'm curious, like you could say no, I mean, that's totally fine, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. I see.
relationships, like on a personal level, like because I find myself having that where like someone who just doesn't have the same value structure as me, where it's like, they're not pursuing getting better or they're not trying really hard at what they're doing. It's like, it's really, I can't understand it and it's really hard for me to connect.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, I'm married and have 3 kids. You do have a boyfriend, girlfriend?
Well, I'm not married. I don't
Okay.
have kids or anything like
Yeah.
this. I do totally understand what you mean, but those people aren't around you for long,
Right.
really, because it ultimately comes down to choice of who you're spending that time with, and you're just not attracted to that person,
Right.
Like whether it's just a romantic relationship or a friendship or a work colleague, like you're just not gonna spend time there, and that's
Right.
it. Like, okay, we don't align.
You move on.
Move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
You're
help
not
you with
gonna
your jump rope.
Don't
and
dwell.
We're out.
Let's jump some rope, get those double unders, and then.
and then we'll move on.
Speaking, Pat, where's your jump rope?
It's right there. You're actually holding it.
No.
That's my rope for sure. Absolutely. It's that's mine. If you saw how short that rope is, if you guys who are just listening can see it, that rope would hit me in the back of the head so hard if I went to jump with it. And it's actually slightly long for her.
It is.
You have to check out her thing. She's gonna do like a don't suck a double unders sort of thing for us, and it looks awesome. I watched her film it today, and it's really, really cool. And it's broken down in a way that I've never really seen. I learned a lot from just watching it, and I've taught in this space for a long time. Yeah, so something that's unique that I hear you saying is you don't look super, super far in advance. You're just kind of focused on the task at hand. But it seems like that's counterintuitive to what I've heard most people say. Like, is that what do you maybe plan in advance and then like focus on the task at hand? Like what's your whole, because I'm the opposite. I don't look ahead at all. I literally live in the moment day by day, but I know most people who are very successful, they plan.
Yeah.
Do you also plan, but then take your day by days, or like what's the?
Yeah, there's definitely a mix. I mean, kind of everything I've planned for in life hasn't happened.
Okay.
Right? So I grew up for 15 years going to med school. Like that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out. So sometimes I do see where if you tie yourself into something, 10 years, I want to be here. If you're too tied into that, that's actually going to be limiting for what you're allowing yourself to do. And in a sport like jump rope, where these opportunities are coming that I never even could have imagined. I could not have even thought of some of the things. When I was, 12 years old, training so hard at 5 a.m. before going to school, I could never have imagined half the stuff that I've done. And so, I always want to leave room for that type of growth and those type of opportunities, that I just don't limit myself to being in a box of where I need to be or what I need to be doing at this time or that time in my life. And nowadays there's so many crazy things going on that's unpredictable, and you can be all over the world, and there's jobs that exist that they don't even have a title. What do you call some of these jobs? So I'm not saying I don't ever plan ahead.
Right.
I mean, my ultimate goal in life is to be happy, right?
Yeah.
To live as happy as possible and enjoy everything that life has. So it can manifest in a lot of different ways.
So you've reached your goal then. To continue to be happy. Yes. That's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I I wholeheartedly admire the level of dedication you have to the things that you do. Like, because the things that you do are not small things, like becoming world record holders in multiple different disciplines within the same domain, as well as like going on TV shows, being in Cirque du Soleil, doing like teaching around the world, coming and doing this with us, as well as med school. She's scuba certified, like you play instrument, you know, there's all kinds of stuff.
Scuba certified.
Yeah, she's definitely scuba
Let's
certified.
not get that out there.
It's really, really cool to see someone who's pursued that and is still like happy about it all and is still stoked on the original thing that kind of like they were doing. And
yeah.
I mean, it's unique. And it's, if you have any advice for someone who's starting jump rope now and they're like pursuing it, like what, or even starting anything that has like a long road to success, like what do you want to tell them?
Well, I think first and foremost, you gotta love it and find the joy of it, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do it for that long. And that's not to say I didn't ever go through times where I've hated jumping rope, but I think it's important to see what part of it that you don't like. So I went through a period where I didn't agree with rules at competition. I didn't enjoy it had nothing to do with jump rope itself.
Yeah.
But it was causing me to not enjoy my time spent with jump rope. So I had to kind of turn around and analyze, well, how can I continue doing what I love in a different way that still brings me happiness every day, you know?
That's good.
So it's not necessarily what you think is causing that unhappiness. Like it wasn't jump rope. It was a different issue. So you had to just identify that and then continue forward. So, you know, I can definitely encourage other people to kind of look deeper at maybe what that problem is, where the unhappiness is lying. And then also, if you don't have anything, like I'm quite passionate about jump rope, obviously, and not everyone has that in their life, but I don't think you should ever give up on that. I think you should continue trying to search for what does give you that love or that passion or that ability to try to live life to the fullest, because I think it can be out there. And maybe in the journey itself is where you end up finding it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that advice, and I've had very similar experiences in my life.
Cool.
Yeah, shifting at times, and that's really, really cool and powerful. So thank you so much. We don't want to take up too much of your time. Check out her suck less at double unders and the whole course and the whole jumping, like everything about it's awesome. And also she was in one of the workouts coming up, so look out for that workout too. We made her do some dumbbell snatches and she kicked its butt. All right. And I made her do some invisible jump rope, and I don't know how much she's done invisible jump rope, probably a lot, but
struggle.
That's all it was a struggle bus. She hit herself so many times with that invisible jump rope. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And and where can we find you in the Instaface, Webstagrams?
Oh yeah. On Instagram, my name is Snorri B.
Snorri B?
Yeah. Wait, I probably should explain that for a second.
Yeah, please do.
So when I was little, my parents got me a pillow that said Snorri. So it's snoring plus Tori, Snorri.
Snorri.
And then I was in this documentary about jump rope, and all of my interviews were in my, childhood bedroom when I'm like 11. And there's this pillow in the background. It's like 4 a.m. on all of these interviews too. So I'm like half asleep. So when it finally came out, all my friends saw the Snorri, and that just became kind of my nickname. And then I never expected my Instagram to kind of take off. And when it did, now it's just too nostalgic.
Yeah.
Like I can't change it at this point.
Snorri B is legit.
Snorri B. So that's where I am there. I'm Tori Boggs pretty much everywhere else.
Yeah.
Hit me up. I love to answer questions about jump rope and help people as much as possible. I get that all the time. So it's definitely something that I love to do. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in the content.
Let's go.
Woo!